Good morning, pre-calculus students. So this is Mr. Lal here. I have the calculus pretest solutions, and make sure I wrote my name. It says which block, which is going to be first, second, and third blocks, and wrote the date you guys are going to be seeing this. So we're going to be doing solutions to the pretest review. I'm recording my screen, and I'm just going to go through the solutions. So any problems that you missed or problems that you need to do that you weren't able to explain, that's what we're going to be working on. Okay, so actually then I select you. There you go. Okay, sorry about that, just adjusting the camera. Alright, so let's start and preview the examination. Okay, so for question 1, which relation is a function? Let me see if I can zoom in here. Which relation is a function? So I'm going to look at question 1, and I'm going to look at the different functions. Well, x equals 4. When x equals 4, that's going to be a straight line. That's going to fail the vertical line test, so that's not a function. When x is equal to y squared plus 1, that's going to be a horizontal parabola, so that's going to look something like that. So that also fails the vertical line test. So that's number 2. Option number 3, y is equal to the sine of x. If you remember from math 3, the sine function is going to look something like this, oscillating between 1 and -1, and that's a function. Passes the vertical line test, so it looks like 3 is going to be your answer. But just to be safe, we're looking for x squared plus y squared equals 16. That's going to be a circle with a radius of 4. And so that fails the vertical line test. So all these failed the vertical line test except for number 3. So the only one that passes the vertical line test. Alright, let's go to problem number 2. So I want you to know something. I can separate all of my work in between horizontal lines. That's how you should be showing your work. Number 2. If f of x equals 3 to the x, then f of -2 equals, so what we do is find f of -2 when f of x equals 3 to the x. So we just plug in -2 where x goes. So we're going to find f of x is equal to 3 to the -2. And if you remember your laws of exponents, 3 to the -2, 3 to a negative exponent, is going to be equal to 1 over 3 to that positive exponent. And 3 squared is equal to 9, so it's equal to 1/9, and that is our answer. Alright. For number 3, f of x equals 2 2 times the cosine of x. I need to find f of pi over 3. So first we have to just evaluate the cosine of pi over 3, and we can plug that into the function. If we do the cosine of pi over 3, that's going to be equal to 1/2, and where I got this was from memorizing unit circle values. If you want extra verification, you had your calculators, so if you really needed to, you could have just found radian mode, so that's good. We're in pi over 3 radians, so find the cosine of pi divided by 3. We'll find that's 1/2 or 0.5. And just as a refresher, the cosine of 0 radians is 1. The cosine of pi over 6 radians is √3 over 2. The cosine of pi over 4 radians is going to be 1 over √2, or √2 over 2. And then the cosine of pi over 3 is going to be 1/2, and then the cosine of pi over 2 is going to be 0. Alright? So there's some critical cosine values to memorize. Alright, so we're at 3, and that was our cosine value. Going on to question 4. Alright, sorry. Calculator was blocking your view, so now you can see all those cosine values. You can find, oh, I'm sorry, I almost finished the formula. If cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2, 2 times 1/2 is 1. So the answer is 1. 2 times 1/2 equals 1. So the answer is 1. What is the inverse relation of the function whose equation is equal to y equals 3x minus 2? So if y equals 3x minus 2, we need to find the inverse of y. So to find the inverse of y, first we switch the y and the x. So y is equal to 3x minus 2. Well, x is equal to 3y minus 2. Then I need to isolate y, so we have to isolate y. So that means that x plus 2 equals 3y, and then we further need to isolate y. So we divide each side by 3. 3's cancel out, and y is equal to x plus 2 over 3. Alright, so that's all our work for problem 4. So we can separate it with a horizontal line. So that's add 2 and you divide by 3. Question 5. If f of x equals x squared and g of x equals 2x plus 1, which expression is equivalent to f of g of x? So with 5 we need f of g of x, which is the same thing as f of g of x. And so in this case, we have f of x is x squared, g of x is 2x plus 1. So f of g of x is going to be equal to 2x plus 1, because that's the internal function right there, and we're squaring it. So 2x plus 1 squared. And so we have 2x plus 1 squared. Here's just a general trick, so you should know this. A plus b squared equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Alright? So you can prove this on your own, but this is true. So 2x squared is going to be 4x. So first we have 2x squared, which is going to be 2 squared is 4, and x squared is x squared. So we're going to have 4x squared. Then we're going to have 2 times 1 times 2x. So 2 times 1 is 2, times 2 is 4, times x is 4x. So we're going to have add 4x plus 2ab plus b squared. And b here is 1, so that's just going to be plus 1. So 4x squared plus 4x plus 1, that's going to be your final answer. 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. Alright, moving on to question number 6. Oh, my computer doesn't crash. So, for what value of x is the function f of x is equal to 2 over 2x minus 1 undefined? So, f of x equals 2 over 2x minus 1, and it's undefined when the denominator equals 0. So it's undefined when 2x minus 1 equals 0. So what we do is we add 1 to both sides. So we have 2x is equal to 1, and you divide each side by 2. And after dividing each side by 2, the 2's cancel out, and x is equal to 1/2. Alright, so we just say x equals 1/2. Question 7. Expression x to the negative 2/5 is equivalent to x to the negative 2/5. So using our laws of exponents, we gotta evaluate this negatively first. So x raised to a negative power is equal to, this is general, x to the negative n is equal to 1 over x to the n. That's part of the law of exponents. So we can say this is equal to 1 over x to the 2/5. And then we can also say for the law of exponents that x to the a over b is equal to the b root of x to the a power. So we can say this is equal to 1 over the 5th root of x squared. And that's going to be option D. Alright, that's 7. Question 8. If log base 2 of x is equal to -3, then x is equal to, so log base 2 of x equals -3. And so what the logarithm is saying is it's another way of writing an exponential function. So the base is 2. So we're saying 2, what this is really asking, what it's asking is that 2 to the -3 power is equal to x. Alright, so 2 to the -3 power is equal to x. There's a lot of exponents again. 2 to the -3 is equal to 1 over 2 to the 3 is equal to x. And then 2 to the 3, that's going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is going to be equal to 8. So this becomes 1/8 is equal to x. And that's our final answer for question 8. Question 9. The current population of the town is 10,000. If the population increases by 20% each year, which of the following could be used to find the population after 2 years? So this is just a Math 3 standard. Exponential growth. I think it actually also might be a Math 1 standard. Math 3 and Math 1. Alright, so the general rule is A is equal to P times 1 plus R to the T. Alright, and so A is your amount after. P is initial population. R is equal to growth rate. Alright, T equals time. Alright, so in this case, we can say for this problem, our population, which is going to be P, is going to be equal to our initial population, which is going to be 10,000 times 1 plus the growth rate is 20%. So 20% represented as decimal is just 0.2. So that's 20% to the T. So that can be simplified to 10,000 times 1.2 to the T. Question 9. Alright, question 10. Expressed in its simplest form, root -36 over -root 4 is equivalent to. So, for question 10, we have the square root of -36 over the negative square root of 4. So we'll just simplify from each time. We're going to break this up into the square root of -1 times positive 36, and just straight up the square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to have -2 because the square root of 4 is equal to 2. And then we can bring that 36 out because the square root of 36 is 6. So we have 6 times the square root of -1 over 2. And then Next up, 6 over 2 is going to be 3. So we just have 3 be equal to the square root of -1. Oh, sorry, over -2. So we'll have -3 times the square root of -1. So the mistake I made here is I had -2 there. Just need to make sure that I keep the sign as I keep on drawing the problem. Alright, so 3 to the square root of -1. And the square root of -1 can be expressed as I because it's an imaginary number. So that's going to be expressed as -3I. Alright, so that's the first 10 questions. Next 10 questions are coming in the next video.